All right, so we've solved absolute value equations. We've solved absolute value inequalities. Now we're going to write absolute value equations and inequalities from word problems. So let's go ahead and start. The basic equation for absolute value is we do the absolute value of x minus a target. And the target is basically what we want. So this is a set value. There is not, sweetheart. Do you need paper? Well, it's your lucky day because I think this one is free. Let me just take off. Oh, you're welcome. All right, so our target is a set value. So it's what we want. So what is needed? What is ideal? So it's an ideal amount. Then we're going to make it equal to a varied amount. And our varied amount is what it can change by. Now, some phrases, so you can understand more or less what it is it could be off by this amount. Or if I say I want a grade of an 80, give or take 5 points. What does that mean? If I want an 80% in the class, give or take 5 points. What could that mean? What grades would I be okay with? A 90? If I want an 80, give or take 5 points? Right. A 75 I'll be okay with. An 85 I'll be okay with, right? Adding 5 or subtracting 5. Now remember, it's basically just the distance from 80, and that's why we use the absolute value. So let's go ahead and write down the off by. Or when somebody says give or take this value. And then once we write the equation, we solve it to find our maximum and our minimum. So we can also write inequalities as absolute values. So when we have x minus our target greater than or equal to our varied amount, is when we say that this amount has to be at x minus our target less than or equal to our varied amount. And it's usually when we say this is at, well, minus x minus our target less than our varied amount. And that's when this part is less than. And then finally, x minus our target greater than our varied amount. And that's when this side is greater than. All right, we're going to do 4 word problems. Let's go ahead and write down the first one. Yes. First, write an equation, and then we're going to find the minimum and maximum values that represent the distance. No, we're not going to, the only things that we're going to substitute is our target and our varied amount. The x will be the actual, like what we're going to solve for. And we'll see that in a bit. So if you want to start solving it or writing the equation, I'm going to give those of you that are writing more time, but you want to do the one, write the equation that we wrote. And if you get it wrong, you can just put a line through it. Are we ready to talk about it? All right, so first we're going to look at our target amount. What is the target distance from Mars to Venus? 56. And it's 56 million, right? But we're just going to put 56. So our answer, we just need to make sure that our answer is in millions. And then what could it vary by? If we look at the word, it's looking for varies. So what could it vary about? 1.2 million. Perfect. So this will be 1.2. So that's our equation. Done. Now to find the maximum or minimums, that's when we go on to solve. So remember, if we're solving absolute values, we get it when we have plus 1.2 million, and then we're going to solve it when it is minus 1.2 million. Right? This is my plus, and this is my minus. So to solve, we're going to add 56. We get x is equal to 57.2. Add 56. And here we're actually subtracting, right? So this would be 54.8. Check my math. All right, so which one would represent my maximum? Max distance, 57.2. And then our minimum distance would be 54.8. Any question? Questions? Nope. So to answer your question, over here, the actual amount is what we would put on X. This is where we would check to see if it falls within the guidelines. So let's say the distance was 58, example. So this is example 2. Now we're going to talk about a train. A train arrives at a stop about every 30 minutes. The route times vary by 5 minutes. So we want to write an equation, and then we want to find the maximum and minimum times of that bus. So we start by writing our x minus target, our equation, x minus the target, absolute value of x minus the target, equals our varied amount. All right, so let's look at which one is my target. 30 minutes, perfect. 30 minutes is my ideal time, right? And what is my varied amount? Perfect. So it varies by 5 minutes. So that's our give or take. So then this is my equation. And now let's solve so we can find our minimum and maximum times of our routes. So let's do the positive when it's above 30 minutes, and then our negative when it's below 30 minutes. So the minimum time of my route would be 25 minutes, and the maximum time is 35 minutes. All right, we got one more equation and an inequality. Okay, we have the equation, absolute value of x minus 5 times 84 equals 4 represents scores of a golf tournament. So we want to solve to determine our low and high score. Right, so we've got x minus 5 times 84 is equal to 4. So the first thing we want to do is we want to multiply these two together. What do we get? 420. We've got x minus 420 equals 4. And then now, since our absolute value is isolated, Let's find it when my answer is above 420. That's my plus. And then when my answer is below 420, that's my minus. Add 420.
We got the 420 by multiplying 584.
Yes. So when they give you the equation, you're basically just solving. All right, so then our minimum score or our low score is 416. And my high score is 424. Too easy, huh? All right, now let's look at number 4. Number 4 is an inequality problem. Oopsie, that's awesome. So if you need to put yourself inequality, so we want to write an inequality, and we know it's an inequality because of that word at most. That's a big hint that we need an inequality. So we want to write our inequality, and then we want to solve and graph the max and minimum. All right, so we start with x minus our target. And we know we're going to have a varied amount. And because this part needs to be at most, we can go back to our notes. Or because it's at most, then that means the other side has, or sorry, because the sign needs to be at most, then this side has to be less or equal. All right, so let's look for our target. What is our target? 71,422. And what would be our varied amount? Perfect. Let's go ahead and write our equation using those values. So x minus 71,422, and it's not necessary to put those the comma, less than or equal to 2,382. All right, let's go ahead and solve them. Oopsie. Remember, for our positive value, we write it exactly the way it is. And for our negative one, everything switches. So we flip our sign and we make it negative. Let's go ahead and solve. So because the word was at most, then that means this side needs to be less than or equal to. And then for our positive one, we copy it exactly the way it is, our original. And then for the negative one, everything switches. So we flip our sign and we change it to a negative. And remember, when our signs are different, we want to subtract, and you keep the sign of the larger number. Please check my math. All right, so now we're going to graph it. Oopsie. Smaller number on the left and our larger number on the right. So that, guys, the physical therapist salary could be between $69,040 and $73,804. Now, if we use these little circles, are we going to have them opened or closed? Closed. Now you can use the arrows, or if it's less than this amount but greater than this amount, then it's shaded this way. If you want to use that trick with the arrows, there's my arrow. So from this number, we're going to shade to the left. And then this one, if we put an arrow from this number, we're shading to the right. And our inequality is x, 69,040 and 73,000. 800